Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar today as we introduce you to the all-new Trimble X9 3D laser scanner. Presenting today will be myself, Jason Hayes, and joining me will be our product marketing team, Greg Jackson, Alex Oxen, and Jeff Turgeon. Now, as we go through the presentation today, feel free to type in any questions that you have into the Q&A section, and we'll make sure that we answer as many as we can in the time that we have today. As we look at the agenda, we'll start out with a quick introduction to the Trimble X9. Then we'll look at the Trimble Perspective software and how it relates to the X9. We'll take a look at the Office software and the workflows that we have. Then we'll take a look at the broader Trimble 3D laser scanning portfolio and where the X9 fits in that. And then we'll take a look at some of the applications. So the Trimble X9, we use three words when we describe this, really: proven, versatile, and reliable. Now, a big part of that is that the Trimble X9 is built on the foundation of the Trimble X7, which has been a very successful scanner with a lot of breakthrough innovations. So that's why we can say confidently things like proven and reliable. Now, when we talk about proven, a big part of this is that the workflows are so easy, and they were made that way for the Trimble X7, and they continue on through with the Trimble X9. Simple workflows like using Trimble Perspective in the field on your tablet to control your scanner and to see the data in the field and also be able to register it in this field. So you know that when you leave, you've got the data, you know that you didn't miss anything, and you know that it's going to register. Now, in addition, we also have smart auto-calibration in the instrument. Now, this is just a few lines on the screen, but it's a very important part of this instrument, and that the scanner will go through and check the calibration, and if there's something wrong with it, it's going to fix it. And it does this all automatically. Now, with other scanners, throughout history, if you needed to do calibration, you would typically set up a lot of targets and different orientations, and you would scan these, and then you would check the data. And then if the scanner was out of calibration, you need to send that back to a service center, which, depending on where the service center was, would take some time, and it would cost some money to do that. The nice thing with the Trimble X9 is it's doing this all automatically. It's checking it and then updating the calibration if it needs to. So it's very reliable. And the data, I can tell you in the past, I've done a lot of scanning projects, and we used to ship out 2 scanners just in case one got beat up in transit and was out of calibration when we got to the site. Now with the Trimble X9, I feel confident just to send out the 1 scanner. If there's anything wrong with it, I'm going to know it right away. Now, in addition to this, the instrument is also self-leveling. Now, we say self-leveling, and that it's got one of, at least as far as I know, the best range of compensation in the industry. Now, this comes from the total station world, where if you're leveling up your instrument and you get it pretty close, the internal compensators will take over and get it the rest of the way. It's the same with this, but this has up to 10 degrees of compensation. So you can see I can tilt it here, and these lights will show up on here and let me know that it's out of the range of the auto leveling compensation. So as I move it back, the lights turn green. It lets me know that it's within that range. So it saves a lot of time when you're in the field. You're doing these setups, and you want to make sure that your data is nice and level. Now, another nice feature with this is the instrument also has a built-in laser pointer. Now, this is great for when you want to take a single discrete measurement on something, such as a target or a control point. You can turn this laser on, you can point at it, and you can see it visually on the ground or on the wall or on the target, and then take a more precise measurement directly on that point. Now, when we talk about versatile, the instrument is very versatile in that it's got a great scanning speed, scanning up to 1 million points per second. It's got a very good range, up to 150 meters. And what this does is allows you to approach a lot more projects than you could with a closer range scanner. For example, just last week I was scanning, and I was close to a marina where boats come in and dock, and I wanted to scan the other side of the marina. Because I had this extended range, I was able to pick up the other side of the marina, where normally with a shorter range scanner, I would have needed to do setups and traverse, so to speak, all the way around to get to the other side. In this case, I was able to get it all with a single setup. So very versatile in that. Also, this instrument has enhanced sensitivity. So with the Trimble X7, there's a special mode that allows you to go in and increase the sensitivity for dark or shiny objects. With the Trimble X9, that's just built into all of the scans. So if you're scanning these dark or shiny objects, which would normally just be very hard to capture, the scanner is going to pick those up much better. Now, in addition, we can also operate the scanner, like I said, with the tablet. We can also operate it if you have a mobile phone to use the mobile phone app, Trimble Perspective Mobile, or you can simply push the power button on the side of the instrument to do a scan as well. So 3 ways to control the scanner. Now, the data is always stored on an SD card on the scanner. Basic SD card, a high-speed SD card that you can pick up at the store for not very much money, so it doesn't require like a very expensive USB stick or something like that. It's just a simple SD card you can get just about anywhere. The data is also stored on the tablet if you're using a tablet, so that you've got your redundancy with your data. And the instrument is durable. So it's got a great IP rating, which we'll talk about a little bit later. It's got a very convenient small form factor that you can put into the backpack, which fits nicely in the back of a vehicle, overhead bin on an airline. Also, there's a hard shell case, so if you want to ship the scanner or check it in your luggage, you can do that as well. Now, when we talk about reliable, I'll come back again to this auto-calibration and the survey grade leveling. The auto-calibration, I can't tell you just how important that is to have that peace of mind that your data is always going to be good. So many times, like I mentioned in the past, you would get to a project and maybe you have to ship your scanner around the world, or maybe you just got a crew that, is a little lax with the equipment, it comes falling out of the back of the survey truck and, bounces on the ground. And you don't know it until you see the data later and things aren't matching up and you don't know why. And you realize that the instrument was out of calibration. With the X9, it's taking care of all of that for you. It's checking it, making sure, before every scan that you're going to have good data. And like I said, if the calibration goes out, the instrument can go in and check that. And this is for both the angles and the distance. Now, also, when we look at the leveling, so many times you really want to, if you're making a digital twin or a digital copy of the world, you want to know if the walls are level or a storage tank is level, or if the floor is flat. If you don't have self-leveling in there, you're going to have to set up some control points first, then kind of scan those, then you're going to have to register to those. With this, all of that's handled internally with the self-leveling. So now you can check your walls, make sure that they're plumb, and your floors are flat with no extra work. Now, don't worry, you can still turn the scanner upside down, say if you need to scan down in a manhole or something like that, that works perfectly well. Now, with this instrument, we also have this great IP55 environmental protection rating. What this is going to do, it's going to give you additional protection against dust and water. You know what project sites look like. You get out there, there's equipment moving around, there's a lot of dust going, maybe a light sprinkle comes up or something like this. Having this IP55, I hardly ever see a scanner with an IP55 rating. Very durable against these environmental conditions. Now, in addition, we also have a very wide operating temperature range, -20°C to +50°C. So you can work with this just about anywhere in the world, just about any time. Now, it's great for you as customers. It's difficult for us in testing the equipment and our testing team to just go and find all of these conditions to test in. I live in Montana, just a few minutes from the Canadian border, and it gets very, very cold here in the winter. But last year, there was only a couple of days that I couldn't have taken this instrument out and been within the specs on the data sheet. So very robust instrument on environmental protection and also being able to work in these different temperatures as well. And all of that comes together so that we can offer a 2-year standard warranty with the instrument. So you know that your investment is protected. Now, when we look at some of these key features in a little bit more detail, I mentioned high speed up to 1 million points per second. It's got this great range and it's got great accuracy as well. In addition, the instrument has 3 10-megapixel cameras, so it's capturing beautiful HDR images if you choose to do HDR. And it's all handled with Trimble Perspective on the tablet to give you that in-field visualization and registration. Now, when we talk about the range is from 0.6 meters up to 150 meters. Now, when we say 150 meters, you're getting a lot of data out there at 150 meters. Now, depending on the scan setting you have, you can get even more data if you do a little bit longer scan, or if you do an area scan out there. And when I say area scan, that means you're selecting a specific area and saying, I want to scan that at a higher density. So it's not like you're just getting 1 or 2 points out of 150 meters or 120. You're getting a lot of data out there. Now, I mentioned 120 meters. Standard range is 150 meters. If you're using high-speed mode, the 1 million points per second, it's going to be 120 meters. So all very good ranges. Now, when we talk about accuracy, you'll see the 3D point accuracy, 2.3 millimeters at 10 meters. And when we look at this range noise, it's going to be less than 1.5 millimeters at 30 meters. Now, when we talk about range noise, if you're wondering that is, if you scan a wall with 3D laser scanners, it's sending out a lot of points, right? 1 million points per second. It's doing this very quickly, in contrast to something like a total station, which is very carefully measuring one single point at a time. So with laser scanners, you create a point cloud. It's a cluster of points. And so if you measure against a wall, like this wall back here, some points will be a little bit to this side of the wall, some will be a little bit to this side, some will be exactly on the wall. And what that deviation is, that is the range noise. So you can see that's going to be less than 1.5 millimeters. So that's a great range noise. Now, when we talk about communications, the instrument communicates via Wi-Fi. We've got a dual band Wi-Fi. You can run at 2.4 gigahertz or 5 gigahertz. Now, I'll recommend usually using the 5 gigahertz, and that it's a very fast transmission. Then it keeps the data going to your tablet in time that it'll transfer. You can see the registration and the visualization before the images are being captured. So you're ready to move to the next station as soon as those images are done. Now, the 2.4 gigahertz, it'll give you farther range. You can get quite a bit farther. But in reality, when I'm scanning, I'm actually usually not going very far away from my scanner, especially with this scanner, because we can have scan speeds of less than a minute. And let me tell you, that scanner is chasing you when it's down there doing these short scan speeds. So you really can't get that far away. So I would use the 5 gigahertz. Now, when we talk about the speed, spacing, duration, I mentioned up to 1 million points per second with that high speed mode. Got a great field of view. Scan durations ranging anywhere from 50-something seconds up to about 6 minutes. Like I said, that 50-second scan, it'll chase you. It's very, very quick. Point spacing anywhere from 3 to 15 millimeters at 10 meters, depending on which scan setting you use. And we'll look a little bit at the scan settings later when we talk about the Perspective software. And when we talk about the environmental, I mentioned it's got that super robust IP55 environmental protection rating, going to keep your investment secure. Great operating temperature range. To be honest, the scanner will operate in temperatures that I won't operate. To tell you the truth, I was scanning the other day outside and it was very hot. My phone quit working in my pocket, but my X9 was still going. And as I mentioned earlier, those 3 10 megapixel cameras on there. Now, when you look at the system overview, it consists of a Trimble X9, of course, the laser scanner, also the Perspective Field software, which we'll take a look at later. Comes also with the Trimble X9 carry case. There's a hard shell case you can get, or the backpack, and also this custom carbon fiber tripod. Very lightweight, easy to use. Great if you have to hike in someplace or go long distance, but very sturdy and robust. So your scanners are not going to move while you're doing the scans. And of course, there's also a quick release. I don't have it on this instrument, but there is a quick release. You just pull the lever, take the instrument off very quickly. Now, in addition, you can get the Trimble T10X tablet to run the Trimble Perspective software, a very ruggedized field computer, and very, very good with processing the data on there live while you're in the field. And then, of course, in the office, you can use Trimble RealWorks or Trimble Business Center. We'll talk about those a little bit later. Now, when we talk about the Trimble X9, compared to the X7, because we have an entire portfolio. We have kind of the shorter range scanners, the mid-range scanners, and then the long range scanners. Now, when we look at the X9 compared to the X7, we're going to have 150 meters on a range compared to 80 meters with the X7. So that extra range is going to provide more versatility. It's going to allow you to do more projects. Maybe you're doing something tall, like a building or a cell phone tower, or something that's far away that you just can't get to, like the example I gave with a marina, that with a shorter range scanner, you could get to it, but it would just take you more setups to get around there and more time. Now, of course, the speed up to 1 million points per second compared to the X7, that's at 500,000 points per second. And also better range noise with the X9 than you'll see with the X7. Overall, that's improving the quality of the point cloud. And as I said, that enhanced sensitivity is on all scan modes with the X9 compared to special mode with the X7. Also, the image processing that we have now is much, much better than what we've been able to do in the past. Excuse me. And also, that optimized calibration routine is going to save you time throughout the day. Now, just looking at the distance, on the left-hand side, you'll see the X7 scan, and you can see down here that there's some points that we can't see on the left side, but you can see them over on the right side. Sorry, lost my mouse. So over here on the left, you can see back here, there's no points, but over on the right, you can see the scanner has actually picked up those dark points in standard mode. So the X7 probably would have got these dark points if it was in high sensitivity mode. The X9 just picked it up in standard. Also, if we look at the distance, you can see the buildings in the background that are picked up with the X9. We're not seeing those with the X7 just because it's a shorter range scanner. Now, if we look at these examples, we can see over here, picking up points with both scanners. This is at 75 meters. So out of that full extent of the X7, still getting a lot of points out there. But if we look over back here, this is out of 140, almost 149 meters. You can see we're getting a lot of points out here with the X9 that we're not getting with the X7. Same over on the side here. And you'll also see that we just get a little bit more detail in this grayscale, so a little bit higher quality scans. Now, just to give you another view at what this distance gives you, this would be the range of a Trimble X7, and then adding on the Trimble X9, you see we get a much better range going out there. So it's going to put a lot more projects within reach. Now, when we talk about the range noise, I gave that example of a flat wall. You can see exactly that here. We've got a flat wall represented by this green line, and you can see the blue points dispersed a little bit either side. Now, we've zoomed very far in, so in real life, it doesn't look like this. This is really only just a couple of millimeters, but you can see the blue points are the X7, and you can see that tighter cluster of the red points almost just right on top of the line. That's the X9, so it's going to give you a little bit more fidelity in that point cloud. Now, when we talk about the sensitivity, that's the ability to pick up these dark or shiny surfaces that are notoriously difficult for 3D laser scanners. As a laser scanning professional, if you went into a building like this and you saw all of this polished stainless steel, you would probably immediately get a lot of anxiety about trying to capture this scene. But if I show you here this view in Trimble Perspective, this is a rendering that we do in there. Anybody can see this. It'll highlight the areas that don't have point cloud data with red. And you can see there's very few areas here. The areas that don't have it looks like actually a little bit on the windows in the background there, and then just a little bit on the edges, the curved surfaces of that stainless steel. So you can imagine if you're going through this room doing these 50-second scans, you're going to pick that data up somewhere as you go through here. So very good at picking up these shiny surfaces. Also, if you're scanning these dark objects, you don't realize how many dark objects there are in the world until you start to do 3D laser scanning. But you can see here, this is a newly washed vehicle. I happen to know the owner of this, and this vehicle isn't always this clean. So I know that it was just washed and polished. So you can see it on the right, there's the image of it. On the left, you can see the scan of that data. You can see we're picking up a lot of points there, and not only on the vehicle, but also out here on the black asphalt on the highway. So this is great if you're in these industries where you do have a lot of black objects, maybe black ductwork in a building or black shiny vehicles if you're in forensics or something like this. So great ability to pick up these difficult surfaces. Now, of course, this is all available to us because of Trimble X Drive, the same technology that goes into the X7, also in the X9 when it comes to auto-calibration. So this is all done, like I said, internally, automatically, without any external targets needed. You don't even have to think about it. It's just doing that. Ensures your data is accurate on every scan, eliminates downtime from annual service calibration. So you don't have to send the scanner in every year. So you save the time that it takes to send your scanner in to be serviced, and also you're saving the costs. You know, some scanners, these can be quite expensive to send them in to get service. So you're saving them time and money there. And it's also giving that peace of mind that you know your data is good when you go to these projects. Also reduces your maintenance costs and lowers your overall cost of ownership for the instrument. And of course, you've got that 2-year standard of warranty with the instrument. Now, I mentioned the X Drive is in common between the X7 and the X9. That's about it. The entire center unit, this part in here that's turning the angles, scanning and measuring the distances, that is all completely different in the X9. It's a much more robust instrument in that regard. X7 still perfectly capable, great for these projects that you don't need over 80 meters or more than 500,000 points. But these are two very different instruments, even though they look the same. Now, I mentioned earlier the self-leveling in the instrument. We talk about it being survey grade. That means within 3 arc seconds with this 10 degrees of compensation. So I can tilt this out 10 degrees before it will start to flag me. So you can see here, it's flashing. It's got a blue on this side. I don't know if you can see this side. That's okay. Back here, it's red. So it's letting me know that the blue area is low and the red area is high. So you've got a great visualization in the field. And again, I'm tilting it a long ways before that kicks in. It kicks in right about here, which is clearly out. So right there, we're within the range. Right here, we get out of the range. So it's a lot of movement in the instrument that you're allowed before that compensator can't handle it anymore. Now, part of this ease of use, I was actually talking to somebody using the scanners the other day, and they mentioned this was great because they were having tough time finding people that wanted to do surveying. So people would come in and try it. In a total station, it would take them quite a while to get them competent that they could bring back usable data. And then if they decided surveying wasn't for them and quit, you know, this person might have a couple of weeks down the drain. Scanning, they said, honestly, it was very easy. Just a few minutes in the morning, they could show them how to use the instrument. They could take it out, get the scan data back, and actually be productive on day one because it was so easy to capture that. The instrument combined with the tablet, letting you know if the data wasn't going to register for some reason, they knew to go back and do another scan to make sure that the data was going to be good at the end of the day. Also mentioned the laser pointer in the instrument. So you can't see it here, but if I turn it on, just finds a green laser point. I can look on the screen where I've done the scan. I can tap somewhere. I can create what we call a precision point. And then I can also turn on that laser pointer to point at it so I can see exactly where that shot is going to be taken in the field. Sometimes you'll have places that are difficult to see in the point cloud. And if you've been scanning for a while, you'll understand this. Maybe on a road, sometimes you might have a manhole cover. You can clearly see it with your eyes. You can see it in the images, but it's hard to spot in the point cloud. You can use the laser pointer to point on this, or an iron rod for a control point on the ground, or even if you're just pointing it at a flat target to do a georeferencing while you're in the field. So very nice to have this to give you this precision point. It's going to be higher quality than just a standard single point in a point cloud. Probably not as good as your high-end total station, somewhere in the middle on the quality there. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Jeff Turgeon. He's our product manager for our reality capture software at Trimble. Jeff, are you ready?
I am. Thank you, Jason.
You're welcome.
All right. So obviously we can't talk about the X9 without talking about Trimble Perspective, the field software that really drives the scanner while it's in the field. And for those of you who've never used Perspective, a brief overview. So this is your ability to choose your scanner options for your scan times, your sensitivity, or not your sensitivity, your range by choosing the different scan modes with the high speed and the standard modes. You also have the in-field registration built into this. So this is the option to automatically register to a previous station within your project. So this can either be the previous station, or using the drop-down, you can pick any station that's already within your project. And then along with this, when you do the refinement at the end, Perspective shows the links between from one station to the next. The refinement breaks these links and uses all overlapping stations. Georeferencing, as Jason mentioned, where you can use the laser pointer, or the regular annotation where you can pick an object within your scene and then match it with a coordinate file, which you can import or create within Perspective. And then I noticed some comments in the Q&A about imagery. So we do have some improvements to this, and I'll touch more on that in a couple of minutes. Measurements. So this is being able to provide answers as you're going through collecting your data. So if someone wants to know an offset or height, you're able to give this all in real time. Annotations, these can be thought of as sticky notes. So you can take messages or images with the tablet as you're going through completing your project. And then having that context for when you're back in the office, either for registration, if you have moving objects, or whatever uses you may have for it. Precision points, as Jason mentioned, so this is very handy for georeferencing. And then we also have labels, and these are ways that you can distinguish certain scans from others. So if you have a multi-story building, you could label floor one all as floor one. So when you search, it's easy to find just those stations. And then with the export, we have industry standards, so E57, LAS, RCP, and then the Trimble file formats, TDX and TZF. And then with this registration, as you can see in this image, I mentioned that it draws the line from one station to the next when you create this registration. And this would be assuming that you have successful registration. If you go too far, it won't be able to process it. When you do the refinement, this has been a common question, why you can't create multiple links. Perspective does this when you're doing your registration refinement. It uses all stations that have sufficient overlap and links them all together, and then provides that within your final registration report. And then how the registration is doing the initial registration is using the onboard IMU of the instrument to roughly align station 1 to station 2, for example, by measuring the distance and rotational influence from as you're walking. And then what this is useful for is to make sure that your data will go together while you're still in the field before you go back to the office. And at that point, it's too late. You would have to go back and rework. As I mentioned before, labels and annotations. So this is just a way to add more context to your scans. And I won't touch too much on this. I have a video that we'll play in a little bit that shows me going through a project, and I'll touch on this a little bit more there. And then measurements. So as I mentioned, that you can give this data to someone like a contractor all in real time. So we have the option to do single point coordinates, 2-point distances, and this can be in a 3-dimensional space or horizontal or vertical, which is from the station view only, which is shown here in the image. So you can see the height for a clearance of a bridge or width of a road, whatever it is. And then you also have the option to window in an area. So what's new with the latest Perspective release? With the X9 specifically, we have introduced atmospheric corrections, and this is due to the range of the instrument. So this comes from the optical world where your total stations are using the temperature and pressure differences in your atmosphere to correct for the distance errors that you'll get based on deviations from your standard 1013 millibars and 20 degrees Celsius, which is shown in the little GIF here. You also have the option to just change the ppm directly if you know what it is. As I mentioned about the imagery, there is a new algorithm for our image stitching, and this correlates to the images for the panos, but also the colorization of the point cloud. So a notable area that was difficult before were power lines, and this is taken directly out of perspective. These occlusion areas that would usually run along the lines have been mitigated for the most part. And then this is becoming more visually correct, but still maintaining that geometric correctness that we really value. And then another improvement is the junction between phase 1 and phase 2. So where the seam is between the start and end of the scan, there's a lot less distinction. And then now that you've created these nice high quality panoramas, you can export them directly from Perspective now. So this is using all those new algorithms. And this is an example of one of the images exported from Perspective directly. As it says here, these JPEGs are only offered for E57, LAS, RCP, and PTX. And we haven't forgot about the Trimble file formats. There's actually a bonus with that, which I'll cover more in a couple of slides. Another addition for Perspective is the ability to export single stations or selected stations. So if you one or more that you would like to export from your project rather than the entire thing, you can now do that. And this also includes registration sets. So if you had day one that you went out, everything was registered and you export it, you can go back the next day, continue that same project, and only export the updated and new scans. And then also with the registration set, you can add new names to them. So you can have by day, floor, whatever it is that you want to do. And then as Jason mentioned, for those of you that prefer to use the cell phone over the tablet, you can use Perspective Mobile to operate your X9. And this full functionality apart from the registration. The cell phone doesn't have the processing power. And then we also have support for the atmospheric corrections on here. And then moving over to the Office software. And before Jason moves on, this is the new icon for RealWorks. We currently, or just recently, had a new update. So if you download the new installer and you see a different app or you're having trouble finding it, this is the reasoning why. So Trimble RealWorks, this is our specialty point cloud software. This accepts point cloud data from basically any source, and then allows you to process it. It's very powerful registration tools, and then a lot of unique deliverable tools as well for our automated pipeline modeling, classification, and a specialty tank module. The other option is Trimble Business Center, which is the field to finish survey software. So this is allowing for CAD work to be done, and then all the instruments that you see at the bottom of the screen, all the data brought from these sensors can be brought into TBC, merged together, and then using all the coordinate systems and network adjustments, all kinds of things. TBC is a real beast. It accepts pretty much anything that you would want to collect, and then a lot of unique deliverables as well, such as like the tunneling one that's being shown on the screen. And then with the new release for the X9, we obviously have new software releases. So a little bit of a spoiler for TBC on this one. They're not quite out yet, but they will be very soon. The additions that you're looking for RealWorks, we have 12.4 that came out end of April, and then 12.4.2 recently updated last week when the X9 launched. And this will have full scanner support as well as the panorama image export. So those JPEGs that I mentioned earlier coming out of the industry standard. You get these out of RealWorks, but additionally, you get the registration parameters for your images. So if you want to take those panoramic images to a different software system for viewing in station-based view, they will be aligned correctly to each other for orientation and position. And then, of course, the enhanced colorization, which has been updated with the within Perspective. This also carries through to RealWorks and TBC. So your point clouds will look very sharp. And then with TBC, this will be out any day I won't touch on it too much. I'll let the TBC team talk about it. But their new deep learning point cloud classification, which is shown on the right here, is fantastic. And then the addition that you're looking for Perspective is 3.2, which has all the features I mentioned, plus a couple of other ones like additional Wi-Fi settings. And then when you get your instrument, what you're going to want to do is go to the Trimble Installation Manager. This will allow you to update your firmware. For the X9, we have the one shown on the screen, 1.0.1.0337. And then for Perspective, you could go up to the controller part of the UI there on the left. And then you can update to 3.2.1. And if you have multiple scanners from Trimble, you only need the one version of Perspective. All the features that are unique to each instrument will automatically update when you're connected to that instrument. And then if you're asking yourself where this all lives in the realm of Trimble, the X9 being collected with Perspective in the field can then migrate out to the office software. So TBC and RealWorks, as I mentioned, but then also SketchUp and Tekla if you have structures or modeling capabilities that you need. But also the third party, if you don't want to use our office software, you have Bentley and the Autodesk products, as well as a unique workflow from RealWorks right to Revit, where you can move models straight in and use their catalog. And then with that, I have a short demo that we'll play, and just going over a couple of stations being collected and the workflow that we recommend. So I hope you enjoy. Upon launching Trimble Perspective, we are brought to the Project Manager, where we can use an existing project or create a new one. For our new project, we'll give it a name. We can give it an image as well, which we can either capture with the onboard camera or choose an existing file. We can also add a project description for additional context. And then once satisfied, we can go ahead and click Create. Now that we have a new project, we are entered into a 2D view with a number of options and menus. Starting at the top, we have some green icons, which are for our instrument connections. We can click on this to expand to show the Wi-Fi channel, instrument battery life, available storage space, and atmospheric corrections. And then clicking any of these icons, we're able to open their respective menus to allow changes to be made. For example, the atmospheric corrections, we have the ability to change the pressure, temperature, or ppm values directly. The menu at the bottom of the screen is for the scanner control. So the arrow allows for the controls to be expanded to show more information. There are options for scan times, scan mode, and imagery for each station. For this first scan, we are going to use the time of 2 minutes and then set the mode to standard to allow capture up to 150 meters. The maximum number of points and point spacing are updated as the scan options are changed and can be viewed in the collapsible menu. For this scan, we will also capture images. Additional options allow for HDR imagery, 15 or 30 images per station, and a user-defined white balance depending on your project site. Now that we have our scan parameters, we can hit Start to begin. The scanner now enters its initialization sequence where it performs the self-leveling and auto-calibration operations. Once completed, the instrument will begin the first scan. And then while this is in operation, you have the ability to pause or stop the scan itself. This is especially useful for pedestrians walking through your area. Once the scan is complete, we get a notification that the scan is being downloaded to the tablet. And then while this is happening, the instrument will begin capturing imagery. As we wait for the imagery to finish, we can navigate through the UI a little bit more. On the top right of the screen, there is an icon displaying a triangle, which will launch the station list. From here, you can view the scan details, which include the scan settings, number of points, and so on. Next down the menu are annotations. These can be used to add notes or create control points within your project. Perspective will enter a station-based view when you create a new annotation. We're just going to switch over to an intensity-based rendering, and then we will move around our view and then select a point to save an annotation, which just requires a name to give it an individual identification. Additionally, we can use the laser pointer, which can be activated with the icon at the top of the screen. And this will allow us to more precisely observe a point within our project. And then once you navigate to wherever the object is within your scene, you can tap the crosshairs to enable a finer resolution to target your point very accurately. And if this point is to be used for georeferencing, make sure you toggle the checkbox so they'll be created as a referencing point, which can be then used in the georeferencing tool later. And then once this point is targeted, the instrument can be used to measure the point and then save it. Now, since station 1 has been completed, we'll move back to the scanner controls where we can start the second scan. This time we'll use the high-speed mode so we can capture at 1 million points per second. While the instrument is in operation, we can continue to work with our previous stations. Moving back to the side menu on the right, below the annotation menu is the measurement tool. Now this tool allows the creation of single point, distance, or area measurements. Below the measurement tool is the notification menu. And now here we can see all the operations performed by the scanner thus far. Moving over to the left side of the screen, we have the display options. Perspective normally displays a subset of the available points to have faster processing speeds while in the field. The magnifier tool allows all points to be displayed for a given area. Now this allows you to inspect the point coverage of your site before heading back to the office. Another useful display option for the station-based view is the ability to display and view panoramic images. Now this is using the preview panoramas, which could be generated between stations. Additionally, high-quality panoramas can be created using the main menu, which we'll discuss more later. Now that scan 2 is completed, it is automatically registered to the previous station in our project. If we had more stations, we would be able to select any number from our previous stations. Once completed, a small registration report is generated to show the quality of the alignment. And this report will remain in the notification list for additional viewing. For this demo, we have now captured all our scans and can move to project export. Now this can be done from a number of locations, the first being the station list, which we mentioned earlier. Here you can select registration sets, single stations, or any number of stations from your project. The other option is to export the project from the main menu. This menu from the top left of the screen includes registration refinement and georeferencing tools. To export the project, select Finalize and Export, and this will bring up the main export UI. From this menu, the point cloud registration can be refined, the georeferencing tool launched, point clouds colorized, high quality panoramas created, and you can also choose the export file format and the file path. And after this, you're now ready to move your project to the office for your deliverable creation.
All right, and with that, we will pass it over to Alex to tell us a little bit more about the entire Trimble scanning portfolio.
Awesome. Hello, everybody. So starting off, we're going to talk a little bit here about the X9, which is obviously our new scanner that we're all pretty excited to have launched this past week. So talking about the X9, so it's really kind of in that balance between Obviously, we have our 4 scanners, with our terrestrial scanners being the X7, the X9, and the X12. And we really see the X9 fitting really nicely between the X7 and the X12. Honestly, all 3 of them are fantastic, and I have a really great experience using them all in perspective. The X9 really is kind of the big brother to the X7. It has a lot of kind of built upon technology. So the X7 really has set the foundation for a lot of the kind of great innovation that we had with the X7 with the auto self-leveling. And then the X9 is really built upon it, where it does have that a little bit more increased range for where you do need it in some of those applications. But really it is the big brother of the X9 in the scheme of our portfolio. And when we go look at the X7 is really that core scanner. So it is going to be the go-to for a lot of people still. The X9, obviously, there are some kind of nice to haves that the X9 introduced. But looking at the X7, it really is going to be kind of that core level scanner of just needing to get some scans, whether you're a surveyor and you're already using the SX12 or something like that, and you want to do some infill. The X7 really still is a really great option to just add more point cloud density around those areas. And then looking towards the X12, so this is that higher end, so above the X9, where you will get a few extra nice to haves, like having those built-in LEDs that really help in those dark environments, or if you're in any demanding environments like that, where you do need to have more density. Obviously, the X12 goes up to 2 million points per second. But again, all of these come with that standard 2-year warranty. But yeah, the X12 really is for those more demanding applications where you do need a little bit more range and accuracy at range. And then finally, we have the SX12, which is really kind of one of the coolest, most innovative total stations out there, with obviously the scanning capability where it can shoot out to 600 meters. It does work really well. Probably one of my favorite things that it always excites me when I hear people using the SX12 with an X7, and now obviously you can do it with an X9 or an X12 recently, but using the SX12 to kind of set your control, you can, if you're going in any environments where cloud to cloud might be hard. I know there was a few people mentioning that in the chat, but just going through and traversing with the SX12, using its total station functionality, but also scanning a bit here and there, and then being able to tie in some infill with the X7 or the X9 to really tie together your project and get even more point cloud density. This really is a great option if you are looking more towards the survey workflow. And now we'll pass it over to Greg to kind of talk a little bit about how you can use the X9.
Thanks, Alex. Just wanted to start by highlighting some of the main features of the X9 that will benefit all of the applications that I will cover. The range, accuracy, and especially the sensitivity to capture the difficult surfaces even at high speed and long distance will improve the data quality and scan coverage. You will also have the productivity gains with the high speed to capture more dense scans and area scans more quickly, so that you can add density to points of interest. Plus, the optimization of the calibration routine will save more time in the field, and the advanced image processing will create better panorama and scan colorization results. Next slide. So general and topographic surveys will certainly benefit from the X9 range and sensitivity to improve efficiency with less setups in the field. Perspective can document features with annotations and pictures and assign the labels that Jeff was talking about to create logical scan groups. You can use Trimble Office software for auto classification of elements in the point cloud and create as-builts. Next slide. Industrial survey requires speed, accuracy, and density to effectively scan complex facilities. Area scans are perfect to add detail to points of interest and safely scan from a distance. You can add annotations to tie-in locations to help the designers back in the office. And you can georeference scans to plant coordinate systems so that the data of the scans match exactly with the CAD models for your design work. Digital twin is a term used for as-built models, and in the case of buildings, it is the next generation BIM. BIM is for new building design and construction, where digital twins evolve once the asset is in use to optimize renovations. Both are perfect applications for the X9, and digital twins can also be used for other assets, such as a bridge for monitoring to detect and prevent potential failures. And there are many use cases, but accurate scans registered in the field is a huge benefit to reduce the risk and ensure the usability of the data when you import into TBC or RealWorks for analysis and design. Scanning cultural heritage sites for preservation and restoration is another great application. Use area scans to capture a high level of detail on points of interest. You can pause the scans when there is tourist traffic, and you can take area scans with images if you have obstructions. You can add annotations to highlight areas of interest and check data in the field before leaving to eliminate return visits to places that are often in really remote locations. So forensics teams will benefit from the high sensitivity to capture dark and reflective surfaces. They can add annotations and take measurements in the field. The field calibration report is a great source of court documentation. In-field scan registration is also key to verify you have a complete data set before leaving the scene. And Trimble Forensics Reveal software is used for crime scene investigation and reconstruction. For tank calibration and inspection, you can quickly and safely produce accurate data for analysis, reduce downtime with the high-speed scanning to efficiently capture all of the details that you need, and you can verify the data in the field, then import to RealWorks tank module to calculate tank filling tables and secondary containment volumes, perform deformation analysis, and create reports. And with that, I'll turn it back to Jason.
All right. Thanks, Greg. Thanks, Alex. Thanks, Jeff, for all of the insights on Trimble Perspective, our office software, looking at our full portfolio, and of course, all of the different applications where 3D laser scanning can be used. As I said, very excited about the Trimble X9 with these three core terms that we use to describe it: proven, versatile, and reliable. And that it's built on that pedigree of the breakthrough technologies that were introduced with the Trimble X7, such as the X drive with the automatic calibration check, the automatic self-leveling, high sensitivity modes, and then also with these great specifications, this great range of 150 meters, which lets you really have more projects within your reach, these outdoor scans, these taller objects, so cell phone towers or buildings that are hard to get to or difficult to get to, or just simply tall, and you need to have that range to scan them. And of course, the environmental aspects of the instrument, being able to operate with this -20 to +50 C, which means that you're going to be working almost any day in any kind of place in the world. And of course, that great IP rating to protect your instrument from dust or water with the IP55. And then reliable, right? You've got your data, it's stored on the instrument, on the SD card, it's stored on your tablet, so you've got it stored in two places. You've got that peace of mind seeing the data in the field on the tablet, so you make sure that you don't miss a scan. I tell you, when you're in the field and you're doing these scans, the world gets crazy. I've had instances where people will come and talk to me and pull me aside, or if I'm in a high tourist area, people will come and walk in the way, and I'll move the scanner and I'll say, remember to come back and get this area. And I'd like to say I've never forgot to go back, but sometimes I'll forget. And it's so frustrating to get back to the office after you've flown halfway around the world and realized you missed one scan and one spot. But being able to see that data in the field on the tablet, you know that it's going to register. That gives you so much peace of mind with the instrument. So like I said, proven, versatile, and reliable really sums up The X9, it fits very well in the portfolio, a strong portfolio with the X7, the X9, and the X12. I see in the questions, people have been asking questions throughout the webinar. The team's been answering. I see one just popped up. Is it intrinsically safe? I will say this instrument is not intrinsically safe. Very difficult to find a truly intrinsically safe 3D laser scanner. Any other questions that you have? I see the team's answering a few of the last minute ones. Please reach out to your Trimble distributor. They will be able to answer any questions, help you get set up with a demo so you can try the scanner out for yourself. I always tell people, try these scanners and make sure they fit your application and do what you want. We don't want anybody having a scanner that doesn't fit their needs. Make sure you get the right one. Is it the X7 that's best for you, the X9, or the X12? We've got a great distribution channel around the world that can answer these questions, help you with not just only your scanning questions, but any type of surveying and measurement questions. So take advantage of those resources. And again, I thank you so much for taking the time to join us on the webinar today. I hope you're as excited about the X9 as I am. I will mention this is actually a blast. It is so fun to use and is so quick in the field to do these scans, look at them as you're going, and see things coming to life while you're out there. And again, thank you so much. Reach out with any questions, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks for joining us.